Hello and welcome back to Traumatic Tomes, and welcome back to episode numero dos of the Traumatic Book Club. This is a club where if you, the reader, should choose to join me, we read all sorts of literature, fiction or nonfiction, that can be considered traumatic, mostly based on subject matter. It can have war, torture, suffering, disease, anything you could think of. I think that would be labeled traumatic. All the normal stuff that humans do to each other, you know. But episode 1 in February was All Quiet on the Western Front. You can check out videos below on that. Everyone who read it had a great time, including myself. I really liked that book. And this month, April, episode 2, I chose the book One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. This is a 1963 novel by Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn, and it details the life of a prisoner one day in his life in a Soviet gulag, a Russian labor camp of the mid-20th century. Now, I'll skip a lot of the introductory details to this novel. Check out my announcement video for this book below, where I cover a lot of the material you need to know about the book before you start. Or not that you need to know, but I provide some context. One thing I will mention, again, is Solzhenitsyn experienced the Russian gulags himself as a political prisoner. So this is a semi-autobiographical novel, where I think we can safely say that Ivan Denisovich could be a Solzhenitsyn stand-in. Now, I don't know Solzhenitsyn's character or how he was, so I can't say that for certain, but he has informed knowledge of these circumstances. And so that's one thing I'll note. A second thing I'll note is that there is only one authorized English translation of this book. This Bantam mass market paperback is translated by Max Hayward and Ronald Hingley. I read it in late March. I did not realize that this is based on a prior censored manuscript. And some stuff about the Russian government and military was toned down a lot in these 1960s manuscripts, which I think helped Solzhenitsyn actually get published. But according to the Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn Center, there's only one authorized translation, and that is H.T. Willett's, his translation from the 1990s. Now, being the great and awesome booktuber that I am, after I learned that this wasn't an authorized translation, I reread the book in the Willett's translation. I got an ebook from my library, and I reread it. So I've read the book twice. And I think that really helped me in my understanding and appreciation of this novel. So, what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about, I'll do like a little brief summary of the book. Then I'll tell you my thoughts. I'll tell you if I thought it was traumatic. And then any lingering thoughts about themes and messages and impacts to myself will be the end. And before I get into me, or what I thought, what the book's about, I want to say, if you read this book, thank you for joining. It's really cool. If you want to talk to me about this book, my email's in the description. I'm sure there's a few people watching this video who have also read the book or just read it for the club. If you want to throw down comments on this video, it would definitely be a good time for anybody who's read the book. If you have thoughts or questions, or you agree or disagree with anything I said. I know there's at least 4 booktubers who mentioned that they would be reading or would try to read this book this month. I'm not going to call them out because I don't think it's necessary for them to make a video. I'm not asking them to make a video. So if they do make videos, I'll try to link them in my community posts tab so that you guys can see other perspectives on the novel. But yeah, that's my little PSA. Now, what is this book about? This is going to be a spoiler video, okay? There's going to be spoilers, but I can assure you this isn't really a book that can be spoiled. It's one day in a prisoner's life. Nothing really of impact happens in this day. It's a fairly standard day. Ivan Denisovich wakes up in prison. All throughout the day, things are happening, but the major things, he wakes up, he has breakfast, he goes to work, he has lunch at work, and they come home from work, they have dinner, and then they go to bed. That's it. I just spoiled the novel for you. So if you're mad about that, I don't care. This isn't, there's no plot twists, there's no deep storylines here. It's literally just one day, and the day is pretty tame. Ivan Denisovich has a good day, which at first I thought that was a little strange. I was thinking Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn suffers through however 10 years, however many years he did in the Soviet Gulag. And then he comes out and he writes a novel about a Gulag prisoner having a good day, respectively to other days and other prisoners. Not a good day in terms of comparing it to maybe somebody who's not in a prison. I'll say that. But he has a good day. And I was like, why would he do that? That doesn't seem like it supports an anti-Gulag message. It doesn't... I don't feel like it arouses as much sympathy for that. And I thought like that for a while, a few weeks actually. And it wasn't until I reread the book. I reread the book a few weeks later, and I was thinking more and more about why Solzhenitsyn chose to show us a good day. One where Ivan Denisovich, he gets extra rations at meals for helping out some people. And his convict gang avoids going into this harsh wasteland worksite. He gets to go to a more developed worksite where there's some inside time, and he gets to work at bricklaying, which is a task that he's skilled at in the camps. So he has a pretty good work day, and he gets to smoke a couple cigarettes. He trades for some tobacco. He was sick in the morning. He felt a little sick, but through work and some extra food, he eventually felt better, and he wasn't even sick at the end of the day. So it's okay. There's all these good things. Like, I know it's not optimistic, but it had me puzzled. And then after reading the book the second time, I think it really hit me about. It was kind of it's ironic how this guy in this minus 20 degree day in the Siberian winter, he's so used to just enduring crap, pain, punishment, a literal interminable sentence. So Ivan Denisovich at this time has served 8 years of his 10-year sentence. But as far as I could see in the novel, nobody had ever, at this time, I think it's in the 1950s now, when this novel's set. At that time in this camp, nobody had actually been let out when their sentence was up. They were either extended officially, like 10 more years were tacked on, or the guards or the bureaucrats just didn't let them out. So Ivan Denisovich is serving a now to life sentence in this camp. And he is aware that there's not a good chance that he's gonna get out in 2 years. But people make fun of him or josh him around, like, "Hey, pal, you only got 2 more years left." But I think he knows that it's not optimistic that he's getting out in time. And it's the irony, other than him having a good day in a gulag, is that there's a certain kind of not reassurance, but a contentedness that Ivan can find just by getting through the day, just by exercising small parts of his humanity and working not just as a human being, but as a member of a community. He has his prison gang. What was it? Gang 10? Gosh, I forgot the gang name. Or the number. Whatever. I'll say Gang 10, but I'll correct it if I'm wrong. And throughout this whole day, Ivan, it feels like he's one of the more experienced prisoners. He knows the way to get things done, to get what he wants, to survive, and that, as I said, is through not just looking after your own skin. You have to do things for others. You have to take care of your comrades or your gang leaders so that they can take care of you. And now, in terms of only being selfless, like Alyoshka the Baptist, Alyoshka, he's a good guy, but he never really gets anything. So I don't know. I'm not going to talk about Alyoshka. He has his own Christian perspective there, where he doesn't need any extra food or he'll just endure whatever due to his positive outlook on life and the afterlife through Baptist Christianity. So he is also an interesting character. But I want to contrast Ivan Denisovich here with 2 of the other characters. One being Fetyukov. Fetyukov, who's the vulture scavenger guy who tries to lick the bowls in the mess hall. And Ivan Denisovich is a crafty guy. He'll do things to get what he wants, but he's smart about it. He's sneaky. He's not pathetic. He's not pitiful. And Fetyukov, he earns the disdain of all the other prisoners because he is so shameless about his scrounging. He's literally like a wild animal, and he often does not receive any treats or gifts from anybody else because they know he's always doing this and he's always trying to take. He's always trying to take, and it's not something that is, it's not genuine. It's not appropriate. I don't know, appropriate. He's trying to survive, of course. These characters are all different perspectives on life, I feel like. And through Fetyukov and Ivan Denisovich, and also Captain Boyvanovsky, how do you say that? The captain, the naval captain. It's like Captain Boynovsky. But the captain, he's more new to the camp, and he's got a hot temper, and he's a little bit of a fighter, and he gets in trouble with the guards and is sent into the hole, where he has to sleep in this really, really terrible spot in the cold. It's a punishment, of course. And I wanted to read a quote from the book, from the Willits translation, where it says, "Best to grin and bear it. Dig in your heels and they'll break you in two." So Captain Boynovsky hasn't learned that he has to change his behavior to survive, to play the game. That's kind of what I was going at. Boynovsky's on one end, Fetyukov's on the other end. They're both not playing the game in the way that they should to survive longer. And maybe that's not your goal. I know people have many other goals other than just straight up survival, like Alyoshka the Baptist, or there's other human motivations and things. It's not always just survival instinct. But Ivan Denisovich, he's more in the middle. He knows how to play the game, and it feels like that's just a general metaphor for life as well, and that there's different ways to play out anything, and you can come in strong, you can come in weak, and you can come in the middle, crafty or genuine, however you want. And regardless of if you're in a gulag, or you're in a free society, or you're on the beach, or you're in a coal mine, or whatever, these different avenues have different results, and it all operates within a structure where a lot of times you just need to play along in order to get by. You might have to but change your ways in order to ensure maximum applicability. And in the end, the only one really out of those three guys who has a good day is Ivan. It's not Boynovsky, he gets sent to the hole. And it's not Fetyukov, who walks into the barracks at night crying because he got beaten in the dinner hall when he was trying to scrounge scraps. Somebody beat him up. And actually, one of the differences in translations that I noticed was from the scene where Fetyukov came back into the barracks. And in this translation, Hayward and Hingley, it says he was crying and he came in. And I didn't really feel bad for him. I was like, oh, like that guy sucked. I don't care about him. But in the Willits translation, the sentence, of course it's different, but it mentions how he was sobbing, and that second time I felt a lot more pity for this man who, he's a grown man, he was some sort of executive or business owner in his prior life, and he's been reduced to this sniveling, scrounging mess. And he's trying to survive just like the rest of them, but he's not going about it in a way that's feasible for being seen in the right way, or in an acceptable way in the camp and being treated in a way that he wants to be treated. And I just felt really bad because sometimes we're reading about these prisoners in the gulag, and I think automatically we rank the ones like, oh, I like this one better than this one. I like this one worse. But the fact is, all these guys are in the gulag. They're stuck there. They can't do anything about it. If they try to escape, they'll be shot. They're freezing their butts off every day. They get gruel. They get little watery gruel every meal with fish bones. They barely have boots. There's just horrible conditions. They don't know if they're ever going to get out of this place. And then even the worst of the prisoners, like Fetchikov, I eventually felt really bad for him. Just because he's still a person and he's lost all his dignity and he's in this really crappy spot, and I felt ashamed that I had viewed him from a point of scorn, I think. Now his actions compared to those of the rest of the prisoners, I think, were a little worthy of derision. But it's not for me to say, really. I've never been in that situation. I definitely understand how the day went. I've been through some things where I understand it. Not at that level, of course, but I get it. But it made me feel really bad to have judged him in that way. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, was the surviving and playing the game, and how it's not just about the gulag. It's about how we just live in general. And another thing I wanted to talk about was I have one of my favorite quotes here was, "Can a man who's warm understand one who's freezing?" And this context for the quote in the book was that some of the people in the camp, either the guards or some of the more preferential inmates, were able to sit in the warmth more often. So in this example, the narrator is saying that they are less magnanimous to the freezing because they don't really get it as much. They don't get the pain as much because they're warm all the time. So that's the quote in itself. But then I was thinking about it after I finished the second read, and I realized that it's applicable to basically all of us as readers. We're the warm ones, and these characters are the ones who are freezing. And that also made me feel kind of ashamed, because after my first read of this edition, I was a little disappointed. I thought it was kind of tame. I was maybe hoping for a little more graphic content, or a little more trauma. Or I wasn't hoping for that, but I thought there would be more because it was a Soviet gulag. I thought there might be some emotional moments. And there's not really any of that. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. And by judging the book that way, after my first read, I proved that as someone who's warm, I did not understand the plight of the freezing. And by reading it a second time, I think I better understood the whole book. I had more empathy, even through the subtle irony of the good day of Ivan. I think I perceived the themes better. And so yeah, can a man who's warm understand one who's freezing? And to compare translations, I wrote down what Hayward and Hingley translated that sentence as, and they said, "When you're cold, don't expect sympathy from someone who's warm." Which I think that has a little different message than, I think, sympathy versus understanding. I think understanding's a lot more powerful in this context. And I like the understanding sentence better too. I think it's definitely more powerful. So that's another point towards H.T. Willits. But yeah, that was something I wanted to talk about. And then I think the last thing I wanted to talk about was just the interminable length of the sentences. It's you never know when you're going to get out. You've been unfairly confined to the camp. You'll be killed if you try to leave. You endure freezing temperatures. You work all day. You hardly ever have time to yourself. And you're in a gang of just guys all day in crappy barracks, get no food pretty much, and it just, the reality of the one day is that if we go to the last sentence of the novel, or the last two sentences, it says, "Just one of the 3,653 days of his sentence, from bell to bell. The extra 3 were for leap years." Just one of the 3,653 days. 10 years. And that's only the defined sentence. This was just one day, and it was a good day. And now, before and after, there are 3,652 more days like that. And that reality, it doesn't really set in immediately, I don't think. I think that's why it's at the end of the book in the last two sentences, to try and like enforce the fact that this was just one of them. And that's the another part of the irony. That was just one. There's 10 more years of that at least, unless he dies. And it's the same thing over and over again, probably worse. And it's really sad to think about. And that's why I now think this is actually a genius work of literature. Which, after I finished this the first time, I didn't think it was genius work. But I don't think I had grasped some of the subtleties that Solzhenitsyn was laying down at the time. I don't think I truly got it. And maybe now, just because I've read it twice, that doesn't mean I get it. Maybe when I read it a third time or a fourth time, I'll have different thoughts. I don't want to get wrapped up in some Dunning-Kruger thing where I read something twice and I think I'm at the top of the curve for understanding. I don't want to do that. I just want to talk about like what my thoughts are now. But yeah, not even after I finished the second read, but after I thought about the second read, I thought more deeply about it. Then I really started to love this book, and I do recommend it to anyone who hasn't read it but is stuck around this long. I really recommend it. It's not a traumatic read at all. That's why I said I was kind of disappointed. I thought it would be more traumatic, but in the end, I think it might have been more effective, more impactful on me because of the lack of graphic content. Maybe Solzhenitsyn in his Gulag Archipelago goes into the more gritty, real details of things. It's so big, I'm sure he does. And that might have... Anyways, thank you for watching. My battery just died, so I'm just going to close it off here. Let me know if you have any thoughts down below on what I said, or you read the book and you liked it, or you disliked it, or you disagreed with what I thought. But yeah, I think this was another successful entry of the Traumatic Book Club, and I'll probably put out an announcement video in May for a June book. I like this like every other month schedule. So I think that's how it's going to go. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.